Okay, in this version, we're going to make a start screen, and I've been doing this for a couple of hours, and it keeps crashing. So I am not 100% sure why this first step. Be very careful. It had worked before, but when I make a new scene, so I click here and I said new scene. If I go to rename it, it seems to crash. So make sure you save before you rename it. So anyhow, I'm just going to leave it as new scene. Um, and I'm going to move up, and I'm going to move it up to the very top. So new scene, I wanted to call home or start screen, but for some reason I really had some issues that would just hang. Okay, so make sure you hit save before you rename it. So let's take a look at how we can make a start screen. So what I want to do in a start screen is it's just to give some information on the rules, the gameplay. I've had lots of people play my game and said, "Oh, how do you?" They use arrows and they can't jump, and they didn't realize it's a space bar and so forth. So what I'm going to start with is it's very simple as far as what we have to do. Let's add some objects. So I'm going to add a lot of sprites. So let's add the animation of the player, for example, and I'll just do the standard player here is just good enough. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add the enemy. And I don't even have to name these. I probably should, just to, it's good form too. Add the animation of the enemy. And enemy was Slime Walk. And I should rename this guy to player because most of these I'm not going to put any codes in. We're just going to have these as pictures, and I'll show you in a second why. So, oops, I'm trying to rush, but it takes a bit here to rush. So ladder, and let's do grass. I can't tell from there, so I'll just do there. Oh, and a background. That was a castle. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to start by putting the background on, and of course it's tiled, so we can stretch and make it over the full screen here. Great. I'm going to put some grass on. Again, it's tiled, so we can make it fairly big. Put some more grass up here. And then maybe I'll put another little bit down here so you can see that I need to put a player, enemy, maybe I'll put a couple enemies here, and a ladder. Great, so this is just to give the view that we have an actual game, even though we are not going to make any actions in here. And then the next thing I want to do is give some instructions. Oh, by the way, with the background, it all worked fine. But don't forget, if you do the background, I could change the Z order. Make sure the Z order of the background is much smaller. So sometimes I might want to do -1 even, just to make sure it's behind everything. But it was number 1, and these things here are 5s and 6s. So it all turned out fine. But something to remember is that if the background, let me change it, and I'll wreck it here. I'll put the Z order of the background, and I'll make it 10, and then the background. Oh, right, that would be a new background. Anyhow, you know the background here. So just to highlight, the Z order was really important that when we put it on, that if you put something on afterwards and you want it behind, all you need to do, delete it and just add it again with a smaller Z order number to be, excuse me, behind. Okay, so I want to put some instructions. One of the things we haven't done that I'd like to talk a little bit about is some BB text. And the reason I want to do BB text, I'll call this instructions, is I don't know if any of you have done work on bulletin boards, but it's sort of a takeaway from HTML. It's not HTML, but it's usually we see things like B if you want to make something bold, and then a /B to stop making something bold. So for example, and we can also use the font size and things. So you can have multi-styled text. So I'll show you how it would work. So you put a little bracket, lowercase letter b, and I'm going to say, welcome to Mr. Poy's platform name. And then I want to stop making that bold, so it's bracket /B. Okay, next line here, I can make this italics. I'm just showing you things. It's probably not the greatest idea. So in this game, your goal is to get 20 coins before you can advance to the next level. Use the left, right, up, down keys to move. Press the space bar to jump. And then we'll finish that being italic and press apply. And so you'll see here, if I put the instructions on, it styles it up a bit. So we have, and actually, I'm going to add another extra line of space there. Here we go. Little information. I can sort of center it a little bit. Maybe. Okay, so now that I've got some instructions, how do I get started? How about I'm going to say, click on the player to begin. So let's do that. So I'm going to put some just plain text and say, click player to begin. A little arrow pointing to it. And so let's just put this text on here. There you go. So there's my instructions screen and my home screen, and so you know what to do. Okay, so how do we make it so it goes from this scene called new scene to level 1 that I made the other day? Well, it's actually not too hard. Let me show you how we're going to do it. What we're going to do is let's go to some code, and there's only going to be one thing of code. So the condition we're going to use is that the cursor touch is on an object. So I'm going to write cursor touch is on an object. Great. And what object? The object here that says player. So if I touch the player, and that sounds good, so I'll press OK. The second thing, though, is before we go to the next scene, I also want to make sure that the mouse was released. So I'm going to click here, mouse, and I want to say the mouse button released. And which button? the left button. That's the regular mouse button. Some people get confused a little bit with that. Great. And then what action? The action is I want to go to the next scene. So you can look at scenes, which is right here. I can click on it and I can go change a scene, and I want to go to level 1. Great. So I'm going to save that. That basically is my game. And as I said, I've been having, I've actually had to redo this a few times. So I'm going to save this right away, and I'm going to choose a folder. I'll select computer 10, and I'm going to call this Gdevelop 9, I think, something like that. And save it. Should be good. And now I'll test it once it's saved. So I've got it all here. Let's hit start, and you'll see here's my game. It's going to start with the home screen. There we go. And of course, I could have made it a little bit bigger. I should have made it a little bit bigger. I'll probably modify this a little bit. Welcome to Mr. Poi's platform game. Click on the player to begin. And there you go. We click on it, and I can jump and so forth. Okay. There we are. Okay, so whoa, phew, great. There you have it. Work on your game and hopefully try to finish it up. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to publish this game to the internet, and so other people can share it and play it.